Hi everyone, my name is Lori, my nickname is Rainy, and I'd like to welcome you to Rainbow Beanie Creations. If this is the first time you've stopped by to check out my channel, I'd like to offer you a very warm welcome. I do hope you like what you see. If you do, please consider subscribing, giving it a thumbs up, leaving a comment, and sharing with your fellow crafters. For all my subscribers, and if you're back again, thank you, and I appreciate you so much. So thanks for joining us today. I do have to apologize. It has been a few weeks since I uploaded. Had some changes at work, had company, just a lot going on, and I just could not get it edited in time. So anyway, we have a great one for you today. We are going to make this lovely little fall sign, and all made with Dollarama or Dollar Tree items. So stay tuned, I'll show you how we did it, and we'll get on with the crafting. So I picked this little sign up from the Dollarama, and I actually really like this. We're taking it off for this project, but we're not throwing it away. Same with the kitty cat, because I just want the frame with the chicken wire. So we're gonna start, of course, by opening it. Let me grab my blade here. And I have noticed, I'm not the only one either that has noticed this, that Dollar Tree and Dollar Store seem to have improved their quality lately on many things. So it used to just be a little glue. Well, now you can see they do have the staples in, so we're gonna have to remove those staples. And I'm gonna leave the string on for now. I may change my mind later about what I'm going to do to hang it, but for now I'm going to leave it on. So I'm going to pull the staples out here, if I can find my handy little thing. So I just got some pliers. If you have staple pullers, go ahead and use those. I have a feeling I'm going to need my scissors to slide under there. Now the cat, I do believe, is glued. I couldn't see a staple, but he popped off pretty easy. And we're going to put some florals or something around the corner, so we'll hide that. So don't throw your bits away. We probably will use them on another, in fact, I know we're going to use them on another craft. All right, so we're going to set that aside. Now you can also see, I'll just point this out now in case I forget later. They painted the top, but not the sides. So we're going to do something about that later, but the reason I wanted that off first is because I picked up these little pumpkins. We're going to take all this stuff off. Again, don't throw the stuff away. We'll use it somewhere, I'm sure. And I did take off, I think they come with a little stem in there somewhere. I don't like their little stems anyway. We're going to do our own. Oops. All right, now I'll just try and get some of this glue off to the best of my ability, but again, I think a lot of it's going to be hidden. So I'm going to cut the pumpkins in half. Now the reason I wanted the thing off is because I'm not sure whether I'm going to use, let's score that first. If I'm going to use three halves or 4 halves. So that was sort of why I wanted that off. I wanted to see how much space I have for what I want to do. Maybe I will just keep using the blade. It's got like this plastic coating on the outside. Now let's see if my blade will go through. Another thing you can do, and in fact I looked for mine. There we go. So what I'm looking to do is 1, 2, 3, and I'm not going to get 4. That's okay. We'll do the 3. I had a plan if that was the case. We'll do this one as well. And as much as I love orange, and I do, it's one of my favorite colors, which is probably one of the many reasons I love fall, but this is a bit too shiny for me. And I want it to be a little bit more rustic, I guess. So that's what we're going to do with those. So in order to sort of tone them down a bit, I'm going to get my handy Mod Podge, and I got some fabric at the thrift store that I think is going to work just great for this. So let me grab my other supplies and I'll be right back to you. So we are back, and these are my 3. I actually got about 6 different ones in these sorts of colors, the fall colors, but I really like these ones. I thought they'd offer a nice contrast. So we're just gonna Mod Podge these on. So to do that, I'm going to cut a piece bigger than I need. Now I want it to have a little bit of overhang because we are going to end up tucking it over so we can keep the back tidy, and then we'll use some felt to really keep the back cleaned up. All right. So then, as I said, we're just going to use some Mod Podge and start Mod Podging them on. Now, because they are round, they're not a flat thing, you might have areas where they bunch, and that's okay. That's just the nature of the beast. We'll get them as flat as we can, and sometimes I'm quite surprised and they do just fine, but other times you get a bit bunchy. Oh, isn't happiness a brand new bottle of Mod Podge? It really is, where it's not gross and sticky, and lovely Mod Podge. Sorry, okay, I'll shut up and we'll carry on. So, I don't have a blotter. Where's my blotter? So of course, nothing fancy about doing this if you've done Mod Podging for anything before. This is just straightforward. Now I will mention the other thing you could do is use a fancy napkin if you don't have any fabric you're happy with. But if you're going to use a napkin, depending on the color of your napkin and what it looks like, you may want to paint your pumpkins white before you do the Mod Podge, because the orange will bleed through. Now if that's a look you want, then absolutely, but napkins or even tissue paper are of course quite thin, and so you do maybe want to go ahead and put some paint on first. A chalk paint would be great. Yeah, just whatever you have. Acrylics will definitely work. It might take a little bit more because these are a bit plasticky. They are styrofoam, but they have this like plastic outside to them, and I think chalk paint would work better, or spray paint for that matter. Now when I use my Mod Podge, and this is a little trick I actually learned from Kelly Barlow quite a long time ago. If you haven't seen the Kelly Barlow creations, do check out her channel. She's awesome and she's so much fun. And she has some great ideas, and I really like her because they always look very high-end, very professional. But she goes a little bit more than what she needs. Now, of course, we're tucking it under, so it's okay for us. But if you're not doing the tuck under, you're going to want to go past where you need it to be. Because what will happen is when it dries, it gets good and stiff. And when it's stiff, it cuts really nicely and doesn't give you like frayed edges or, you know, that rough sort of edge, especially with using fabric. paper's not so bad, but when you're using fabric Mod Podge, now I'll just show you this now. You can see it's sort of creasing and bunching. That's okay. It's just fine. So yeah, check out her channel. But it'll, like I said, it gives you a nice clean finish edge when it's dry. You cut around it with box cutters or your X-Acto or whatever, and your edges are beautiful. Okay, so you should be left with something similar to that. And I'm going to set this aside and let it dry. And yes, my edges are all over, but once it's dry, if I try pulling it while it's wet, it's going to ruin my lines. So I prefer for it to dry before I start pulling and tucking around, so my lines stay reasonably straight. So that's the only reason for that. So I'm going to take care of the other two, and then we'll move on to the next. All right, so they're all dry now, and so we're going to do the next step. I've just sort of laid it out so you can see it, except for I've done it upside down because here's the top, but so you have an idea of what we're kind of going for here. So I got these little leaves at the Dollarama, and the little letters I think I got at the Dollar Tree. So, but use whatever you got in your stash. You can, of course, if you got a Cricut, that's a good way to go. I thought about doing that, but apparently mine is needs to be calibrated, and I didn't have the patience for that this day. So we're gonna just not do that, and we'll go with that. So anyway, so we're gonna start by just all the edges now. I'm gonna tuck them under tight, and the hot glue will kind of melt the styrofoam. So you're kind of gonna have to glue them to itself. Now it will hold them. You just have to be a little bit patient and things and stuff. But essentially I'm gonna glue them more to themselves than the styrofoam. And if you haven't got these things, oh my goodness, I don't think I get through a video most of the time without burning the bejeebers out of my fingers. So yeah, grab these they are the best. Okay, so we are going to attach these next because they're going to take a little bit to dry. I did go get another glue stick and kind of finish that back off, but we're going to come back to that. But I know because we're going to use some Aleene's tacky, I wouldn't recommend the hot glue for these, mainly because one, it will melt the little foam bits, and two, I don't think it'll stay attached very well. So, and it always it makes it bumpy, you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. So I'm just going to use the Aleene's on there. It dries clear, and I think it's going to work far better than our hot glue in this application. So because it will take a few minutes here to dry, we're going to get those going. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I've got this felt. You can use whatever you've got on hand. You can probably even use paper if you really wanted to. I just want to clean up the back a bit. Go ahead and just trace this out, assuming my pen works. Is it going to work? Yay, it's working. More or less. And this just happened to be the perfect size for it, so. And then I'll cut all three. We'll start with two and then just do one more, just so they don't get too wonky. Again, not looking for perfection exactly, just, oops. Just want to clean it up a little bit. And then I'll just hot glue those onto the back, as I said, just to make it a bit tidier, make it look a little bit more finished. Okay, so for the stems, I've got these corks, and they are different sizes, and I think that will actually add to it. And I am going to cut them in half, just like we did the pumpkins. Now, I'm going to tell you with the corks, do be careful. This is not something you want your kids doing at all. They are a little, because they like to spin, and it takes several passes. It does work. I've done it often, but yeah, you do want to be a little extra careful because they like to roll, and you don't want to slip and, you know, give your finger a good old slice. But once you get it most of the way through, usually you can just break them the rest. So let's see if that will work yet. Oops, not quite. There we go. And so I'll do that again. We need 3. There we go. And then I am just going to give them a little paint. Sometimes I do like to leave the corks just as they are. I like the rustic look, but for this one I think I do want a little of the paint on there. So this is just a burnt umber. Oh, sorry, I lied. This one's cinnamon brown, which is quite close to burnt umber actually. And there's our pumpkin stems, which we will, in short order, glue on. So our frame, which I'm quite happy with, it has just enough of that orange showing through. You can certainly take sandpaper to it and give it a little bit more if you want to. The one thing, while I've got my dark paint out, I am going to distress it just a little bit more. I keep going back and forth about whether I want to distress the edges of the pumpkins, but we'll see about that in a minute here. So I'm just looking for my dry brush one. Where's my dry brush in this mess of paintbrushes? Actually, I think that one will do. This is a crusty brush. Hang on to your crusty brushes. I mean, there are ways to clean them, but we all have left a paintbrush out. If you haven't, you are my hero, because I have. And I usually catch them in time, and I usually can make them okay. But I do find that using one of these brushes from time to time really actually is a good way to do some distressing. So again, if you're not familiar with dry brush technique, you get your brush, you wipe now if you don't have a crusty brush, you can use a regular brush, it's fine. The point that we want to do though is to get most of the paint off, so it's very dry. And then we're just going to darken up some places where we think it needs to look a little more aged. And you can be as heavy or as light-handed as suits you. I tend to be a little heavier handed than some people, but that is totally personal preference. Whichever suits your personal style and your decor and all of that is the best way for you. And I am no real rhyme or reason. I will do the corners, and as I'm doing it, even some of the green paint is coming off a little bit more, and that's just fine for my look. I think I'm just about out of paint here. Oops, that's way too much. All right, now I think, I keep going back and forth. I think I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, guys. I'm gonna do it. I'm going to just dry brush, but I want the right dry brush for this. I want something much smaller. And I have an actual dry brush, but I have no idea where it is right now. So we're gonna go, I want it to be fairly, no, not that one. Where's my good dry brush? Okay, so small one. I'm just gonna take a little bit of the paint. It's gonna be fairly dry because of where I'm taking it off of. And I'm just a little bit. Like I don't want it to be, I don't want to draw a line. I just want to give it some shadow. All right, now let's just see. I have a feeling these corks might be too long. Little one in the middle. Oh, look at that. It's going to work. Love it when a plan comes together. Oh, not quite. Oh, just barely. We'll take a little off of those. Okay, so I just finished dry brushing our lines, and I'm kind of glad I did. I think it just gives it that little bit more depth that I felt like it was missing. And I did cut down our corks so that they would stay put. So the next step we're going to do, I just wanted to lay them out, make sure they were going to fit properly. So the next thing we're going to do is glue these on before we start doing the pretty stuff, the embellishment. So I'm going to hold it on this side. I want it. One thing else I was going to mention too, on mine I kind of have a side that went nicer than the other where I tucked it. I'm putting the nicer side, if this is an issue for you, at the bottom. The top we're going to be hiding with some leaves and things, so if it's a bit messier on one end than another, have the good side to the bottom. So then I'm just going to flip it over. And I'm just going to take a generous amount of hot glue and just put it all over the back as you see me doing here. And then I'm just going to come in with another piece of felt and put it on the back. Probably should have cut that before I put the hot glue. Yeah, just a heads up on that. And that's going to keep the back looking reasonably nice. Not that you'll really see it, but just a little bit nicer, and keep it good and attached. And I'm going to do that for all 3 pumpkins. And I'm going to cut a little piece for the stems of the pumpkins as well. Where did I put my little cork? Guys, does this happen to you? Like you don't even go anywhere and I lose, oh, there it is. I lose stuff constantly and I haven't even gone anywhere. It drives me bonkers. I do it at work too. Something that's just in your hand, you don't even go anyplace, and then it's just missing. I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves. It's so frustrating. Yep, I'm way happier with that. Okay. Okay, so now to do my favorite part of this is sort of decorating them up. So I've just grabbed some leaves out of my stash, and these acorns, I actually found them. So, but you can, I know that you can buy them at the dollar store, the fake ones, whatever. So whatever you have, you can leave them off entirely, of course. Raffia, what's fall without a little raffia bow? And so we're just going to decorate the pumpkins up a little bit. So I'm going to start by putting the leaf on. And I'll just tack it down in the few areas where I feel like it needs to be down. And then some of the florals we pulled off of our pumpkins, I'm just going to use some of those and just tuck those in as well. And then I really like this stuff, so I thought we'll tuck a couple of sprigs of this in as well. We'll just cut it for little pieces. We don't need the whole big thing of it. I think I'll put the acorn on first though. And of course, so for the final thing, I'm going to just put the glue right on the wire and spell out my autumn. Should probably lay them out so I don't get them all wonky. Okay, so I'm sorry about the filming part. I'm not sure why my camera kept shutting off. I think I've got it fixed now, so I guess we'll find out. Oops. So the last thing I'm gonna do is I decided I did want the beads on here, but I didn't just want the white ones, so we're going to alternate. I just took the white ones, well, they were kind of beigey or whatever, just put colored beads out, put them on a skewer and spray painted them the orange so it goes with our, oh, and we better tape that or I will be very frustrated. So yeah, we'll just tape the end off here to make it a little bit easier to squeeze things through. And I'll just start alternating them. And of course, it goes without saying that you guys can do whatever color suits your decor or your thing. So here's the final product. I am really pleased with it, actually. I really like the way it turned out. The colors, I just really like it, and I hope you do too.